Hello and welcome to SusyBLiving's Gardening by the Moon series. It's a bit unfortunate I've had to do this again in my sewing room because again today it is absolutely, well, bucketing down with rain. So by the time I got out into the greenhouse it would have been I would have been absolutely sodden and soggy. So here we are again, we're inside. 1 week in the greenhouse, that's all we got. Okay, I have my bits in front of me here of what is coming up in the next week. I am going to take you through from Monday, the 11th of March, and I'm going to go over to Thursday, the 14th of March, only Thursday morning, okay? So there's a reason for that. So I'm going to cover this time. So let's start with Monday, the 11th of March. This is my sowing and growing schedule. I will give you some other jobs if you're interested as well, but this is where I am at in my growing year. So I hope you get some ideas of what you might want to sow and grow, and what I'm transplanting and all of my other business that I do. So I do sowing first, then I do transplanting, then I do weeding and maintenance, and then I do feeding and watering. And that is my little schedule that I've adapted to the moon phase days. And they are roots, fruits, flowers, and leaves. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with leaves. So Monday, the 11th of March is a leaves day on the moon phase calendar. It's only 1 day this week. So if you have any leaves that you want to sow, remember the most important thing for me is my sowing. I make sure that on these moon phase calendar days that I do my sowing first, because that's where I get all my fantastic germination. So I am going to be sowing my first summer crops of kale. So this is my summer crop, my kale summer crop. I don't grow many. I only grow 3 of each, but I always like to have a few kale leaves in the summer because it just gives me some really interesting texture other than lettuce and, you know, softer leaves. So the ones that I've chosen are Pentland Brig. It's a fantastic kale. It's kind of like a nearly curly kale. It is, and it grows really, really well. I'm going to do 3 of those. I'm doing 3 of the Dazzling Blue. Now, the Dazzling Blue is a Cavallonero type of kale, but it has a pink midrib inside. It's really delicious. It's really, really lovely. Doing 3 of them. I'm doing my favorite Cavallonero, which is called Black Magic as well. Sorry that I'm looking down, but I've got my notes in front of me. So I'm going to do 3 of them, and I'm going to do 3 Scarlet Curly as well, because I really like Scarlet. It freezes really well if you get excess. By the way, all of these kales freeze really well. I find that when you freeze kale, especially the tougher kales like the Pentland Brig, it breaks the cellulose up in the leaves, so it's much easier then to cook with. But things like the Cavallonero types, they're just easy to cook with anyhow. They got a softer leaf. So that's the kales that I'm going to be doing. The next thing I'm going to be sowing is a batch of proper bunching spring onions, or salad onions, if you want to call them that. And the variety that I particularly like is called Guardsman. Guardsman is a proper bunching spring onion. It won't bulb up like the other spring onions that I've been growing and putting into the garden. I need about 40 cells of those, and I do 6 seeds per cell. So that just goes to show how tightly I grow them, because they don't end up being bulbs. So that's my spring onions. I'm then going to add a couple of lettuce into the mix, because the lettuce has been, I've mentioned it before, the lettuce hasn't been great. I've had stem rot and I've had problems with slugs and everything. So I'm just going to do 5 of each. I'm going to do 5 red Grenoble, which is a bit like an iceberg lettuce, but it's red and I really like it. I wasn't going to, I said I wasn't going to do any more Grenoble, but I think it'll be quite nice. And I'm also going to do 5 winter density. Now, winter density is like a little cos lettuce, and most people grow it in the winter, but what I find in the winter is it gets really bad stem rot, and it doesn't work for me. So I grow it this time of year, and I'm going to put I want some more crunchy lettuces. So I'm doing 5 winter density as well. I'm going to add those to the mix. And the other thing that I am going to be doing is I am going to be putting in some more kaleets. Now, kaleets are a cross between a Brussels sprout and a kale. So you get the Brussels sprout proper big plant, but instead of getting really tight sprouts on there, you get these little kind of like open flowers, like little kale plants. It's absolutely gorgeous. And they are so delicious. When I put these in, and I'm planning on putting these in early May into the garden. Actually, they'll probably go over to the allotment. We start harvesting the leaves first. So we start harvesting the leaves really from July, and then you get the sprouts later on. They kind of start from November, but they go through into winter and into spring, and they are absolutely delicious. Love kaleets. I might do another 20. I've got 12 on the go, and I'm thinking how many I'm going to need, because we do eat a lot of them. That is all my sowing for leaves days. Now, if you want to, you can sow some Asian greens or Oriental greens. I'm okay for those at the moment. You can sow different types of lettuce if you want as well. You can have a look at what I'm sowing for March video for leaves. I have a video specifically for leaves, and have a look at that, and that will give you an idea of all the different types of leaves that you can be sowing in March as well. But I'm up to date. Right, let's talk about what I'm going to be transplanting. So I have got these really lovely little kales. This is an experiment of mine, because I'm always experimenting with timings and with when I get harvests. And I have some really lovely little kales in the greenhouse, in the big greenhouse, and they are ready to transplant out. I am going to put a few on the allotment under cover, and the other ones I'm going to do I'm going to put them in pots, in big pots, because all I want from them is I want small leaves. So, excuse me, I want either leaves for salads, or I want small leaves that I can kind of chop up and put into things where I don't have to cook them for a long period of time. So I'm going to do them in pots, and I'm going to do them over at the allotment. The next thing I need to transplant out is some more salad onions. I have some Sturon. Now, Sturon is a brown onion that is grown here in the UK, and it's grown as a bulbing onion. But when you grow them as spring onions or salad onions, the tops of them are really delicious. So they need to be transplanted out somewhere. And I'm thinking about spaces. I've got some spaces in the kitchen garden that I will put them in. I've also got some of my red ones as well, which is Lilia and North Holland Blood Red. And they are nearly ready to go in the garden. I've got to check them. I'll check them tomorrow morning. And if they're not ready, then I'll wait for the next roots day to transplant those out. So weeding and maintenance. The leaves that I've got on the go at the moment are lettuce all over the place. So I've got them in the greenhouse over at the allotment. I've got them in the kitchen garden, in the raised beds, and I've got them in the greenhouse. So I need to check them over, take off all the leaves that are rotting, any leaves that might have mildew. I don't think any of mine have got mildew, thank goodness. And just check them over, check for any slugs that might be hiding underneath them as well. It's a great time if you've got lettuce growing on a moon phase calendar day to check these things, check for slugs underneath, check for any kind of, even when the caterpillars start coming as well. I had a lot of caterpillars on my lettuce last year. I've got Asian greens. I've got them in the kitchen garden, and I also have them in my veggie pod. Just again, check for any leaves that might be rotting and dying off, because that's when you're going to start to get pests. Those slugs and those snails will be in there like there's no tomorrow. And the other thing is my kale. So I've got some kale here in the kitchen garden, some dwarf curly kale. A lot of it needs to be harvested because it's starting to go to seed. And I've got nothing at the allotment because that's all been picked. And for feeding and watering, I'm just going to check all my seedlings. I think they're okay at the moment, but if anything looks a little bit off color, I'll just give it a multi-purpose feed. Okay, so that is Monday. Tuesday the 12th and Wednesday the 13th in the morning, AM, are both unfavourable days. And they're unfavourable days because today, being Sunday, is a new moon. And we're also in this time when they call it perigee. And perigee is when the moon is the closest to the earth. So the energy is not very favourable for any kind of sowing or just transplanting or anything really to do with specific types of fruit and veg. So I just leave everything alone. It's a great time to do any kind of spring cleaning that you want to do, any cleaning up in the garden. You know, if you've got any kind of general weeding that you want to do, it's a fantastic time. And I really do like these days because it gives me the chance to do this stuff. And I don't have to worry about, oh, am I sowing on this day or whatever. So that is Tuesday and Wednesday in the morning. So Wednesday PM, so anytime really after lunchtime, and Thursday the 14th of March are both fruits days. So that's why I'm covering Thursday as well. And fruits days, remember, is anything with a seed in it. So we're talking about broad beans, peas, what else have I got on the go? Tomatoes, peppers, chilies, cucumbers, courgettes, anything like that with a seed in it is called a fruit. So I am going to be sowing my second batch of tomatoes, and this time I've chosen, it's called Tumbler and it's an F1. I'm going to be doing 8 of those. Now my first batch of tomatoes, which were the Red Profusion, they go in all my hanging baskets, so that's them done. This lot can also go in hanging baskets, but they also do well in pots as well. They are great yielders, this F1 Tumbler. You can get up to 4 kilo and they're cherry tomatoes, and they are absolutely delicious, and the seeds are really hard to get hold of. So if you can get hold of some of these seeds, grab them and plant them because they are wonderful. So I'm doing my second batch of those. I'm going to do 8 of those. I've thrown in a new tomato that I saw and that I thought, oh, I think this might be quite nice. So it's a very, very beautiful looking tomato, and it is called Black Moon. I've never grown this before. I said I wasn't going to grow any of these fancy smancy tomatoes this year, didn't I? But this is not so fancy schmancy because it is high yielding. That was the word that I was looking for. I'm going to grow this in my greenhouse, and I want to see how many. I'm only going to do 2. That's it. No more than 2. So Black Moon is what it's called. And the other thing that I'm going to be sowing is my first batch of melons. And I'm only going to keep 2 of them. And they are going to go into the greenhouse. And once the all my kind of peach trees and apricot trees and all that kind of stuff comes out of the greenhouse, they go in there. And I'm hoping to put them outside then in May. That's my sowing. Transplanting. I have chilies and peppers on the go. I've got them in my little cells and they need to be transplanted now up into the next bigger cell. If you want to have a look, I've got a dedicated video for that. I will put a link up. I'm just looking which way. I think it's that way. I'll put a link up of this video and you can see what I mean when I'm saying that I'm transplanting them out. So there, I've got those to do. That's about it. I've done my peas. My peas are looking good. So let's talk about weeding and maintenance. So what have I got on the go? I have broad beans on the allotment. I have broad beans in the greenhouse and they're flowering. I have 2 lots of peas. I've got my sugar snap peas here in the kitchen garden and my Oregon sugar pod peas in the kitchen garden. They're doing really, really well. Just have a really good check of those. I have 2 pots in the greenhouse of very early peas. They're going up the tripods like mad. And so that's my kind of peas. Then I've got my chilies and my peppers. I have cucumbers on the go as well. I have to check those because they might need transplanting, but I'll just have a look at those on Wednesday PM and Thursday. I've got some courgettes as well. They might need transplanting as well. So I've got a few things on the go. And when I do weeding and maintenance, so any kind of fruit that I've got, I have a look at. I'm pretty much up to date with my fruit trees now, so that's good. And yeah, all's good. And feeding and watering, I think I'm going to give my citrus another feed because the leaves are starting to get dark green now. So I might give them another feed. I think it was about a month ago that I did the last feed. So that is it. That takes us up to Thursday, the 14th of March. I will see you again on Wednesday evening, just to give you a little bit of a heads up of what's coming up for the rest of the week. We have roots and we have flowers on the Sunday as well. So, yeah, I will see you Wednesday night. I hope that you're able to get out and do some sowing because it's important this time of year to be sowing like mad because we'll get to April and everyone will say, oh, I forgot or I haven't had time. Okay, so I'm Susie B from SusyBLiving, and thank you. Hello to all the new subscribers. I've got quite a lot of new subscribers come on board and watching my videos. I hope that you'll all garden by the moon with me. I will take you along and show you how it's all done, so there's no need to freak out about it. And give us a thumbs up. That's always encouraging. Fantastic, and I will see you Wednesday evening. Bye.